Hi, my sweet and precious children. Welcome back to Algebra. Today we're going to be talking about Lesson 14. If you are following along at home, Saxon Algebra 1, third edition. This is for my homeschoolers, but hopefully if you're watching and you're not one of my homeschoolers, it helps anyway. All right, so we're going to talk a little bit about algebraic expressions. Algebraic expressions, I love these because we are going to be getting into some functions later in algebra, and it's really important that you know how to do these. So it's a combination of plugging in numbers. I like to think of them as like little puzzles. You're going to be plugging in numbers and then using that order of operations skill that you have. So for those of you following along at home, I'm going to go through and do the examples in lesson 14. Those of you who are my students, make sure to turn to your notes or video section in your binder. You're going to write down some of these examples and then we'll go over the practice problems in a bit. All right, so example 14.1, this is on page 64 if you are following along. We want to find the value of, I'm going to put 1 here, xmp if x equals 4m equals 5, p equals 2. All right, you know, when we have variables that are like this that don't have an operation in between them, it's multiplication, right? When we use numbers, we have to put like a dot or something like this, right? Or even the little old school x that we don't use anymore because we're in algebra. We have to put something there because if we did it just like we do variables, it would look like 25, 26, 27, right? So we wouldn't be able to know the difference between 25 or 2 times 5. So anyway, so when we do this, the deal here is the Saxon problems get really much more difficult, much more quickly. So you want to, I'm going to show you a way to do it. It seems a little bit of an overkill, but when it gets when we get into like the opposite of the negative of the opposite, you're going to be like, thank you, we have parentheses. So what I want you to do is every time you see a variable, throw some parentheses down. Then we insert where the x is, we're going to insert a 4. We insert for whatever the variable is, we're going to put that in. M is 5, P is 2. And what that's meaning is multiply all those. 4 times 5 is 20, times 2 is 40. Times 2 is 40. All right. So for number 2, let's see if this works. I don't want to accidentally stop recording. All right, there we go. For number 2, we have 4yz minus 5 if y equals 2 and z equals 10. Again, we're going to put in some parentheses for these guys, all right? So 4 and then parentheses, minus 5. Y equals 2, so we're going to plug that into here. 10 equals z, so we're going to plug that into here. So really what we have are all these things that we need to multiply. Now, I may have said this before, but remember, you want to do all the chunks first, and chunks are broken up by addition, subtraction. So we've got 2 chunks here. We have this one and this one. So you want to do everything that you can inside those chunks and then combine the chunks. So right in here, we've got 4 times 2 is 8, times 10 is 80, minus 5. That's going to give us 75. 75. Good. Let's try another example. So for 3, we have y minus z if y equals -2 and z equals -6. So this is why it's important that we use those parentheses. Or if you don't use parentheses, you got to be real careful on showing the difference between a subtraction sign and a negative sign. So we're going to do those parentheses here. And y equals -2 and 6 equals -6. So do you see now we have a double negative here? Because I brought this guy down from here and this one came over here. We don't subtract, we add the opposite, right? So we've got -2. So if you didn't use parentheses, this is a good way to write it. Do you see it? You can tell the difference between my negative and my subtraction. But we don't subtract, we add the opposite. So we're going to add, and the opposite of that, we get there. All right, so our answer is going to be 4. The answer is going to be 4. All right, let's look at some more examples of these. Number 4, negative. See, this is where it's good to use those parentheses because this is going to be a complicated one. If a equals -3 and b equals -4. So a equals -3 and b equals -4. All right, we're going to plug in some parentheses. Bam, 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 bam. I call them bubbles. Plug in our bubbles, right? Leave a little bit more room. B equals, I just forgot as I was writing it. Okay, so for A, we're going to plug in -3 here, and there's an A here, so -3 here. For B, it's -4, -4. All right, again, chunks are broken up by addition, subtraction, right? So really what we have here is this chunk, and this chunk. So we're gonna do those chunks and bring them down. -3 is +3, right? Because this is just like a -1. Same with right here, -1, okay? So that's gonna be a +3. Now, there's a couple ways of doing this. What I like to do is bring this down, -4, right? Minus, I'm bringing this guy down. Now, -3 and -4 is gonna be +12, okay? So now we add the opposite. Add the opposite, add the opposite. We're gonna group all our positives together. Here's a positive, positive, and then group all our negatives together. I think that's the easiest way to do it. So our positives, we get 7 plus, and then -12. All right, our negative team is larger by 5. So our answer is -5. All right, let's see about number 5. And again, guys, you're in algebra now, and there are multiple ways of doing problems. If you do something a little bit different, that's fine. As long as you're getting the right answer and you're doing it in the right order, that's fine. But just make sure, for those of you who are slightly confused about this, follow my steps and it's a lot, you'll have much better luck at success. So then x equals 2, a equals -4, b equals -6. All right, so what I'm gonna do here is first things first, I wanna change these parentheses into brackets. I think that's a little helpful. Now, wherever there is a variable, we're gonna go ahead and plug in some bubbles, right? Some parentheses. So we're gonna rewrite this whole problem with our bubbles. All right, now x is 2, so that's gonna go here. A is -4 and b is -6, okay? So we have -2 minus, let's put some brackets, -4. The opposite of -4 is +4 plus -6. All right, let's do those parentheses first. Remember our order of operations. So we've got -2 minus, notice when I'm doing something, I'm just bringing everything else down with it. That's really, the key here, guys, is gonna be stay organized. Use one line each time, okay? 4 plus -6 gives us -2. So -2 minus -2, add the opposite, we get big fat goose egg, 0. Actually, you're not supposed to write it like this. This means null, which is very different from 0. I got lectured by a computer scientist about that. So leave it as 0, just like that. All right, so that was 5. Let's look at some more examples here. We've got 6. All right, always copy down the problem first too, please. That's vitally important because then I can see if you've made a mistake in copying it down. And I might be more lenient on giving you points if you do copy it down wrong. It says +3, but y equals +3, which we know is +3. That they stopped using the plus in front of numbers to mean positive. They stopped using that in a couple of lessons. So I'll just stop now. -4. All right, so again, what we want to do is turn these guys into brackets, right? Turn those guys into brackets. Now we have parentheses, minus parentheses, brackets, negative parentheses, plus parentheses, end our brackets. Now we have to go through and plug in for x, we're going to do -2, -2. For y, we're going to do 3, and for a, we're going to do -4. All right, so what we have here is -2 minus 3, brackets, -4 is +4, plus -2. Okay, now we want to do the stuff that's in our brackets or our parentheses first, right? So we've got -2 minus 3. The operation that's going on between these guys is multiplication, okay? If it's not shown, if it's parentheses, it's generally multiplication. Times 2. Now, guys, what I don't want you doing is this garbage first. That is not correct. You got to do your multiplication first. That's a really common error that I see. We want to do this stuff first. So we're going to do -2 minus 3 times 2 is 6. Now, it's easier to add the opposite, so we get -8. Okay, so that was 6. We got 2 more examples, and then we'll do the practice problems here. So for 7, I'm going to move this up a little bit. There we go. All right, so for 7, we have -m plus x, quantity -a plus mx. If m equals 2, x equals -3, a equals -4. All right, again, let's convert these guys into brackets just like that. And we're going to write those parentheses write down our bubbles for wherever there's a variable. So negative brackets, parentheses, plus parentheses, bracket, negative parentheses, plus parentheses, parentheses, bracket. All right, we're going to plug everything in here. For m, we got 2. So that's going to go here. For x, we have -3. So that's going to go here. And then for a, we have -4. All right, let's clean these up a little bit. We're going to do negative, and we got brackets. We have 2 plus -3 gives us -1. Brackets. -4 is 4 plus 2 times -3. 2 times -3. Now, we could have just done 2 times -3. So let me back up. We want to do the stuff that's in the parentheses first. Within those parentheses, you still want to follow the order of operations. So we want to do our multiplication first, which is this guy right here. So I'm going to rewrite this, and this time I'm going to use some parentheses. -1 times 4 plus 2 times -3 is -6, just like that. This guy right here, so we're going to bring everything else down. Whoops, -1 times -2. Guys, there are 3 negatives, and if it helps, you can throw a little 1 there, right? That's totally allowed. There are 3 negatives there, which means 3 is odd, so it's going to be a negative number, okay? Because when we have an odd number of negatives, the answer is going to be negative. So 1 times 1 is 1 times 2 is 2. So our answer here is -2. Good work. All right, so example 8 is going to be very similar to that, so I'm just going to skip them because we don't really need to go over all those. But what I want you to do is go ahead and do the practice problem. So pause the video now. I'm on page 65. Do practice problems A through D, and then come on back and let's see that you double check that you got them right. All right, so A, x minus x, y, if x equals -2, whoops, y equals 3. So we've got parentheses minus parentheses, parentheses. Let's plug in -2, -2, 3. -2 minus negative, and we want to do multiplication first. -2 times 3 is -6. Go ahead and add the opposite, and you should have gotten 4 for your answer. Let's look at B. All right, so we have A equals -4, B equals -2. All right, I'm going to convert those guys into some brackets, and we're going to do parentheses minus brackets, parentheses, parentheses minus parentheses, brackets. A is -4, so we have -4, -4, -4, and B is -2. All right, let's clean that up. We got -4 minus brackets. This guy right here, let's just go ahead and do those multiplication. That multiplication straight off the bat, that's +8 minus -4. Again, do you see I'm very distinct about my subtraction and my negative? Go ahead and add the opposite. We want to do the stuff that's in our parentheses first, or in our grouping. -4 minus 8 plus 4 will give us 12. Go ahead and add the opposite. We get -16. -16. All right, so for C, x minus a b, a minus b, x equals -3, a equals -2, b equals -4. All right, again, let's convert these guys into some brackets because that'll make it easier. We're going to do parentheses minus parentheses, parentheses, bracket, parentheses minus parentheses. I always run out of room when I do this. All right. So we're going to do our x, which is -3, and then our a and b, which is -2, -4. Our a is -2, and our b is -4. All right, we got some cleanup to do, right? And when we do that cleanup, it's kind of easy to just go through and do your multiplication at the same time. So -3 minus, and what I mean by that is, here's our multiplication right here. -2 and -4 times -4 is +8. Now, you may be thinking, she said +8, but this looks like a -8. That's because I brought this guy down. So you gotta be real careful on these, okay? Within our parentheses or our brackets, we're gonna have -2 plus, because we're adding the opposite, right? We add the opposite, so -2 plus 4. All right, want to do everything within those parentheses. Do not do this first. If you do this first, you will get the wrong answer. It is a very common mistake. Do not do that. Stick to that order of operations, okay? We got our parentheses here. Bring everything else down, okay, negative 3 minus 8 times, once I'm done with parentheses, I throw them out of the way and use a little dot to indicate multiplication. That's a personal preference. It's totally up to you guys. Times 2, right? Because negative 2 and 4. All right, again, we don't want to do this first. We got to do that multiplication. So we have negative 3 minus 8 times 2, which is 16. Now we can go ahead and add the opposite, and we get negative 19 as the total. All right, that was C. Let's look at D. Negative x, a plus x if x equals negative 4, a equals negative 2. All right, again, we want some brackets here, like that, okay? So we've got negative parentheses, parentheses, bracket, parentheses, plus bracket, plus this. All right, we're gonna plug some things in here. We've got negative 4, x is negative 4, negative 4. The rest of these are negative 2, negative 2. All right, let's clean this up a little bit. Let's do that multiplication that we can. Negative, so we're gonna bring this guy down, bring that negative down, right there. Negative 8 and, I'm sorry, negative 4 and negative 2 is positive 8, parentheses, negative 2 plus negative 6, or negative 4, that's twice now. Ugh. Negative 2, negative 4 is negative 6. And now that I'm done with everything, now that I'm done with that negative 6, or everything in the parentheses, I'm gonna take it right out and do that negative, or do that dot for multiplication. Plus negative 4. Good. Now, so that's, oh, yeah, because I just brought everything over. All right, so here, 6 times 8 is 48, and it's going to be positive because it's 2 negatives. So 48 plus negative 4 gives us positive 44. Positive 44. All right, guys, go ahead and try those. If you have any questions at all, please let me know. Otherwise, we will talk to you in class. Thank you.